Rising sun hits the sky, see it open before us. Take these hopes, hold them high. Every step takes you closer. Oh, 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 oh. The stars will show us. Oh, 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 oh. It's all waiting for us. Every turn a living color. Heaven knows what we'll discover. A story in the making. The world is ours for the taking.
Distant shores, every anticipation, getting lost, we'll explore with no hesitation. Oh, 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 the stars will show us. Oh, 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 it's all waiting for us. Every turn a living color. Heaven knows what we'll discover. A story in the making, at the start of something greater than we could uncover. Holding on to all this wonder. A story in the making. The world is ours for the taking. Rising sun hits the sky.
Take these hopes and hold them high.
Every turn a living color. Heaven knows what we'll discover. A story in the making, at the start of something greater than we could uncover. Holding on to all this wonder. A story in the making. The world is ours for the taking. A story in the making. The world is ours for the taking.
Rising sun hits the sky, see it open before us. Take these hopes, hold them high. Every step takes you closer. Oh, 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 oh. The stars will show us. Oh, 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 oh. It's all waiting for us. Every turn a living color. Heaven knows what we'll discover. A story in the making. The world is ours for the taking.
Rising sun hits the sky.
Take these hopes and hold them high.
Every time you live in color, heaven knows that we'll discover a story in the making, at the start of something greater than we could uncover. Holding on to all this wonder, a story in the making. The world is ours for the taking. A story in the making. The world is ours for the taking.
Rising sun hits the sky. See it open before us. Take these hopes, hold them high. Every step takes you closer. Oh, 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 oh. The stars will show us. Oh, 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 oh. It's all waiting for us.
Every turn and live in color, heaven knows that we'll discover a story in the making. The world is ours for the taking. Open fields, distant shores, every anticipation. Getting lost, we'll explore with no hesitation. Oh, 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 oh. The stars will show us. Oh, 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 oh. It's all waiting for us. Every time we live in color, heaven knows that we'll discover a story in the making, at the start of something greater than we could uncover. Holding on to all this wonder, a story in the making. The world is ours for the taking. Rising sun hits the sky.
Take these hopes and hold them high.
Every time you live in color, heaven knows that we'll discover a story in the making.
Welcome, CWLI members, to your 2022 annual meeting. For those of you who don't know me already, my name is Tangela Johnson, and I served as the board chair for CWLI for 2021. As I reflect back on my year in the seat, I am thrilled to see what we accomplished despite the odds that we were presented with. Because of you, we served more than 1,400 women. We hosted more than 20 events, with as many of those being in person as we could do without risking your health and safety. We hosted our first ever mayoral forum and built bridges with our local governing bodies to amplify our mission. We strengthened strategic partnerships with the local business and nonprofit community so we can expand our reach to more women of all ages and stages. We graduated 12 adult and 26 game changers, and we welcomed a new class of 12 adult and 24 game changers. We developed our next leadership track, Elevating Performance with Inner Leadership with Dr. Shelley Prevost, that kicked off in January. But the big news is that we realized a dream that my predecessors, Janet Dunn and Julie Baumgarter, started as far back as 2019. We have officially opened the CWLI Legacy Center as a business and professional development hub built by women for women. It is with deep appreciation that we celebrate the contribution of our founding and ongoing legacy leaders and partners who invested early and have continued to support this dream to its fruition. When it is once again safe to convene, we will host an open house and you are all invited. As we continue to experience the effects of the ongoing health crisis, we are renewed by the powerful resilience our leaders have demonstrated this year. When we sent out our biannual member survey, we were not surprised to learn that nearly 64% of you hold senior level positions in your companies and another 20% of you own your own businesses. You continue to be the backbone of our society. We are grateful to you and we are here for you. We know that you persist because so many people are depending on you. A little later on, we're going to spend some time celebrating the resiliency of women through this difficult season. I have watched strong female leadership on full display as we navigate challenges and work to collaborate. I have witnessed authentic and vulnerable emotions fuel necessary changes. I am proud of how our board of directors has risen to the occasion to usher in a new chapter for CWLI. I've enjoyed working closely with our next chair, Autumn Witt Boyd. I have relied on her allyship more than might have been expected under normal circumstances. We made a great team this year and are excited about what the future holds. It is with very little hesitation that I pass a ceremonial gavel to Autumn to take us into 2022. I know you will be as enthusiastic about her vision for CWLI in 2022 as I am.
Thank you, Tangela. Before we announce the incoming leadership for CWLI, we want to present you with a small token of appreciation for your leadership during this past year. CWLI will donate $200 to be given to the charity of your choice in your honor. Now in its second year, this new tradition is our way of demonstrating our commitment to honoring and activating female leadership throughout our community. Thank you for all you have done to move us forward. Your theme of power for 2021 was evident in our programming, and we witnessed amazing growth in the women we were honored to serve. Thank you for your influence. Under your leadership, we helped more than 1,400 people better understand the valuable contribution women make to our social and economic landscape. We also would be remiss if we did not thank our enduring partners for investing in our work. We are so grateful for our partners like Blue Cross Blue Shield and First Horizon Bank, as well as numerous others who are recognized throughout our event today. They are responsible for ensuring that CWLI is still here to serve the women of Greater Chattanooga into 2022 and beyond in innovative and relevant ways. In order to achieve the bold goals we have set, we needed a team ready for the challenges ahead. Thank you to our governance committee, Emily Ramsey, Stacy Johnson, and Amanda Jelks, for the many hours you put in deliberating our slate of officers and new directors. We are excited to present to you the 2022 CWLI officers. Julie Davis will be vice chair. Stephanie Mansueto is treasurer. Emily Ramsey is secretary. And the 2022 new board members at large, Sharon Law with Thompson Engineering, Shannon Millsaps with Thrive Regional Partnerships, Alita Rivers with Chattanooga Housing Authority, Leanna Young with First Bank. The entire board of directors nominated these women in a rigorous selection process. Each new board member is a woman whose skill sets will move the organization forward towards our strategic goals. We are excited to welcome them to our leadership team. At this time, Kim Schumpert will deliver our annual CEO address and introduce our special guests for the keynote address.
Good morning. We are so glad you've carved out some time to be with us today. As Autumn said, my name is Kim Schumpert and I am the CEO of CWLI. I'm honored to be speaking to you today. Over the last year, we gained 98 new members, and I haven't yet had the chance to meet many of you. But whether you're brand new or have been with us for a while, I'm so glad you're here. And I'm looking forward to the time when we can safely convene again and get to know one another better. When I sat down to write this segment, I reviewed my notes from the last year and was reminded of how much we've continued to change over this last year. How much has continued to be asked of us. How we continue to lead. Coincidentally, my marriage is nearly as old as CWLI. There are a number of parallels between marriage and the year we had as we celebrated 25 years in business last year. Like a marriage, there were growing pains, there were challenges. There was enduring support for this mission and enduring bonds that we will carry together forever. I can't imagine navigating some of the difficult decisions we made without the leadership of the women in this organization. I'm proud of what we accomplished during 2021. I've grown personally through these challenges, and many days I have more questions than answers. For example, how are women continuing to be impacted by COVID? Who's missing from the conversation? How are we working to ensure that more women and men embrace the economic and social value women provide? Who benefits from our mission? And whose stories most need to be told right now? We began planning for this year around June of last year. So think back with me to what was happening at that time. Just when we thought we were about to be on the other side of the pandemic, the Delta variant reminded us that we are not. We began to hear rumblings about the emerging Great Resignation. We began to feel the need to tighten our budgets to accommodate for rising prices in the supplies that we consume every day. We looked ahead and perhaps we were cautiously optimistic that we would once again be able to plan for a future without having those plans sabotaged. Most of all, we discovered that our capacity to remain hopeful and resilient would continue to be tested. We've heard from women all year long about their levels of anxiety and exhaustion, and we see you. You continue to wake up every morning and adapt to a shifting schedule. We see your pictures and the smiles on your faces of the memories you're working to build for your loved ones through the ongoing uncertainty. Through it all, you continue to be dedicated to support and celebration. You are the embodiment of resilience. As we have observed your accomplishments this past year, we began to believe that what we build next as a body of women will look very different than what we have seen in the past. We acknowledge that we are forever changed. And that led our team to think about the overarching theme for our 2022 year. You've inspired us to examine how we rebuild female leadership moving forward. What an exciting proposition. Think about it. Perhaps we've been so focused on the stress of life without rules or norms that we haven't stopped to consider the opportunity to rebuild new norms that work better for us. I like to think that the world is more awake now than ever before, and as my good friend Dr. Shelley Prevost puts it, we are the leaders we have been waiting for. The definition of possibility reads like this: a chance that something might exist, happen, or be true. Maybe like me, you're questioning what is possible for you right now. How can you lead when some days you're not even sure if you're surviving all that well? We acknowledge that so many of your systems of support have broken down through the pandemic. What we want to know is, what will you rebuild in their place? What is this opportunity calling you into? I don't think I can say it any better than poet Amanda Gorman. I invite you to listen to her words and reflect on the year of possibility that has been gifted to you. Then after this short video, it will be my pleasure to introduce you to two women who I believe epitomize what happens when we embrace possibility.
May this be the day we come together. Mourning, we come to mend. Withered, we come to weather. Torn, we come to tend. Battered, we come to better. Tethered by this year of yearning, we are learning that though we weren't ready for this, we have been readied by it. we steadily vow that no matter how we are weighed down, we must always pave a way forward. This hope is our door, our portal. Even if we never get back to normal, someday we can venture beyond it, to leave the known and take the first steps. So let us not return to what was normal, but reach toward what is next. What was cursed, we will cure. What was plagued, we will prove pure. Where we tend to argue, we will try to agree. Those fortunes we forswore, now the future we foresee. Where we weren't aware, we're now awake. Those moments we missed are now these moments we make, the moments we meet. And our hearts, once all together beaten, now all together beat. Come, look up with kindness yet, for even solace can be sourced from sorrow. We remember not just for the sake of yesterday, but to take on tomorrow. We heed this old spirit in a new day's lyric in our hearts. We hear it for Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne. Be bold, saying time this year. Be bold, saying time, for when you honor yesterday, tomorrow ye will find. Know what we fought need not be forgot, nor for none. It defines us, binds us as one. Come over, join this day just begun. For wherever we come together, we will forever overcome.
Although we weren't ready for this, we have been readied by it. Be bold, saying time this year, for when you honor yesterday, tomorrow you will find. It is my great honor to introduce to you two women for whom this anthem is being lived out in real time. Liz Norell currently serves as an associate professor at Chattanooga State and has more than a decade of experience teaching political science at the college level. In addition to her research interests in public opinion, political psychology, and the Supreme Court, she spends a good part of her intellectual energy reading and incorporating the science of teaching and learning into her work. She serves on faculty committees and advisory groups on teaching practice, growth mindset, and quantitative literacy. She also advises the Social Justice Club and the Student Government Association on campus. Zinnia Nesmith is a former service relationship manager at Unum and a former billing analyst at Blue Cross Blue Shield Tennessee. She currently serves as Executive Director of Empowered Connections, where she provides education and assistance to caregivers with loved ones unable to attain resources in Tennessee. She is a professional advocate. She is currently a student at Chattanooga State and is the present president of the Student Government Association. She has a special interest in promoting diversity dialogues with all. Zinnia is an Achieving the Dream 2022 Dream Scholar. As such, she is one of only 8 individuals in the nation to be recognized for this honor. She was also selected as the winner of the Southwest winner for the Statewide Outstanding Achievement Recognition, or SOAR. She will go on to compete for this statewide honor in March 2022. Please join me in welcoming these two new CWLI members to our annual meeting. We are so excited to have with us today Liz Norell, Associate Professor of Chattanooga State Community College, and Zinnia Smith, Executive Director of Empowered Connections. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
We're so excited you're with us. Thank you for spending some time with us today for what I think is going to be a really important conversation. We talked before we got online today together about just the power of positivity and the power of allyship. And I cannot wait for our viewers to see in action the demonstration of your beautiful friendship and allyship with each other. And so I get to be your hostess today. Thank you for letting me do that. Thank you for letting me be your facilitator for a few questions. And thank you in advance for your authenticity and transparency around just kind of understanding the power of what we can do as women. Yeah. So our theme for the year is rebuild. We're going to talk a lot in 2022 about what we rebuild after the pandemic? What's going to be new about what we rebuild from what has been? And I can't think of a better story than the story of the two of you together about rebuilding something new. So I'm hoping you can kind of teach the rest of us how to do some of that through our conversation today. You guys, you have proven to me anyway, in the time that I've gotten to know both of you. And by the way, I have a massive girl crush on both of you, by the way. You're just amazing. And so you've proven to me what is possible. You inspired me. You both came across my path at a time where I needed that inspiration. And I thought, you know what? If that can happen for me, it can happen for a lot of our members too. So again, thank you. So let's just jump in. Tell us a little bit about your background. And Liz, if it's okay, I'd like to start with you and just give us a little bit about your background.
Sure. So I have been at Chat State as a professor of political science since the fall of 2016. So I'm rounding out my 6th year here. Before that, I worked as a part-time faculty member here and at just about every other public school you can imagine between Nashville and Chattanooga. So I'm originally from Arkansas, but my passion is really helping other people figure out who they are and who they want to become. And, you know, that's not something that you probably imagine a lot of political scientists would say. But for me, the study of political science has just always been about trying to understand where other people are coming from so that we can build consensus. And so that's, you know, you see a lot of that in the work that I do, trying to cultivate greater understanding and building toward consensus wherever possible. But outside of my teaching life, I am a yoga teacher and have some experience doing some coaching. And I think those skill sets have been really invaluable into deepening my practice as an educator, as a mentor, and as a lifelong learner, frankly.
I can't wait to talk a little bit more about that. And before we get to you, Zinnia, for our viewers, I want to let you know that you may hear a little bit of banging around us. As most of you know, we've just moved into our new Legacy Center, and there's still some construction happening. And so we are in this COVID moment, and so we are recording this safely in our offices, and that's just the name of the game right now. So I apologize if you hear a little bit of banging around us. Hopefully it's just something we can kind of live with as we get through this interview. So Zinnia, tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, of course, I'm a native of Chattanooga, and I am now currently a student at Chattanooga State, graduating in the spring of this year. But it really started as a kid growing up in Chattanooga, not really in a very good situation as far as family goes. I was raised by mostly just strong women. Mm-hmm. And these are strong women that survived trauma. So my upbringing had everything in it from, rejection, abandonment, addiction, and things like that. So it made for a very confused and hurt young woman. And after that, I always had dealt with depression and things like that. I always dealt with suicide and just the typical things that, a teenage girl with a lot of burdens would do. And so what happened was I didn't graduate high school. Actually, what happened is I attempted to kill myself when I was 17. And because of that, I couldn't graduate high school. I went into rehabilitation. Coming out, I just had jobs where I could just survive and go and get my nails done and things like that. Really had no goals according, in life. And so my grandmother was like, well, you need to go get your GED. And I was like, yeah, okay. So I went and got my GED and passed it the first time, but didn't do anything else with it. Just basically went back to getting, to working jobs. Well, at 22, I had my daughter. And when I had her, then I needed a little bit more money to take care of me and her. So I got better jobs, but better jobs weren't really helping. So I actually was at the Urban League and went through a program that Clinton started, Welfare to Work, because at that time I was on welfare. And went through that program, learned how to soft skills and how to use Office and stuff like that. Got a job at that time, Provident Life and Casualty, and started entry level. Worked my way up to a service relationship specialist. Stayed there for about 10 years. And then I left and went to a advertising firm called ARS Advertising. It's not in existence now, I don't think, and worked as a photo manipulator. And then after that, I started to, I was over the department that would manipulate photos for the Sears catalog and everything. Well, then we had a recession happen. And because the employer was really, really good to us, he really took a hit. And after that recession, we were laid off. I was put on unemployment, found another job at Blue Cross, stayed at Blue Cross for 11 years. And between that time, when my daughter was age 4, she had a car accident, which left her as a traumatic brain injury survivor. So that was added in to my already difficult life. Was working just to keep my head above water and to take care of her, and did that until 2019. Okay, so my daughter graduated in May of 19, and I started feeling like there has to be more to this. And so I had tore up my shoulder because of the work that I was doing at Blue Cross, and I decided I had to go get surgery, but I also decided to start school. And so I started school in 2020, in January 2020, right before COVID. And
You like a challenge.
right. So I went to school on campus for 2 months, and then COVID hit. And then I was off of campus. But in the meantime, I met Liz. And even though we were in a COVID pandemic, Liz always had something that she was doing to try to keep students engaged. And I didn't really know Liz. My advisor actually introduced me to Liz, and she wanted me to interview some people. And in the process of interviewing one of them, my goals changed. It changed from not being a student and just getting an associate's to maybe I can get a PhD, or maybe I can go further just by conversations. And so after that, Liz was like, every time she would ask me to do something, I was ready to do it. Also, though, but when I had an idea, Liz would send me an email with it all formatted and what we needed to do to execute it. And so now we're here.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love that. It's amazing. So I hear so much there around, I heard, you talked about your grandmother. You've talked about women along the way. I imagine there have been many, many women along the way. Yeah. But, when you talk about Liz, you light up. That's the first thing. We'll get to that in a minute. But what I also heard you say in terms of your relationship with Liz, and Liz, we have gotten to meet you over the last year or so, and you've jumped right in at CWLI. You are now taking one of our leadership tracks. You are leading one of our affinity groups, Civil Dialogues Across Differences. You are no stranger to just jumping in. And, you are content to be that leader behind the scenes, I think. But what I heard you say is, you tee it up for people, you prop it up. But in so doing, you're modeling the type of leadership that we need. You are constantly modeling for other people, other women. Hey, if you want to get from point A to point B, here are the steps to take, and here's how to do that. And it seems to be very automatic for you. So 2 questions, Liz, to you first. Where does that come from? Where does that desire to want to, see other people, that passion to see other people transform come from? Because I share that passion. I don't think that I share the educator piece as much as you do, although I do have that. But you genuinely love really walking alongside an individual. That takes a lot of time. That takes a lot of dedication, a lot of investment. Where does that come from, do you think?
Gosh, I wish I knew, because then I could try to help other people find it. I think it's kind of core to who I am and who I've always been. You know, I look to my mom, who is a small business owner. She owns a very successful and well recognized franchise of H&R Block in North Central Arkansas. And, you know, she's been running that business. She started doing taxes when I was born. And within like 8 years, she was a part owner. And now she's the sole owner of that franchise. And, you know, she's just like a get in and get it done kind of person. She doesn't want a lot of attention. And, you know, she's all about being generous with her time and her attention to the other people around her who are largely women. And I don't know that I've ever really thought about that in that particular way. I see her as an example of someone who works really hard, who's a doer, not a talker, and who is very generous. But I think, you know, part of it has to be that, but it's also just that, you know, I mean, I'm an Enneagram 2. I want to help people. It's so core to who I am. And, you know, I consider it the great privilege of my life to get to meet people like Xenia, who give me so much more than I ever give them, because I see hope in them. I see opportunity in them. And I also see, you know, in the case of Xenia in particular, but in so many of my students from all walks of life, people who have been knocked down over and over again by systems that are not built for them, but who have persevered and who are ready to make the path easier for people coming up behind them. And that so perfectly describes what Xenia is and who she is and what she does. And I want to be on that team.
I love that. And so you teed up my next question perfectly. It's a great segue. Xenia, to you, you exude optimism. You exude, in the face of the challenges that you have had, you know, in terms of, you know, you speak about your daughter and you know, the accident that she had and the way that you care for her subsequently very you know, very easily. It's a part of your life. But we all know that that cannot be easy. It's anything but. And you continue to rise to those challenges over and over and over, even having not had the example or being equipped growing up and the systems growing up that would predict that success for you. So where does that optimism, where does that hope and resilience come from for you?
I have no idea, but it is something that, because it can be said that either I can complain about what's not going right, or I can get in the driver's seat and try to do something about it. And it's always been that way with my daughter, China. We didn't really have a strong understanding about what was going on in her brain. And so it took a lot of education, a lot of time, and a lot of trial and error, a lot of teachers walking with me, a lot of administrators walking with me. And then it took a lot of just learning, dealing with it, and seeing my daughter for who she is and not what society says. And in doing so,
Stop.
I'm sorry.
Seeing your daughter for what she is and not what society says she is. I want to make a fine point on that. That is one of the most important things that I've heard in a very long time, because isn't that true for all of us?
It is.
Right? Isn't it true? Isn't it the key for some of the success that we all find eventually, is that we stop living in the shoulds, right?
Right. Or the
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I want to make sure I don't miss that point, because it's so
or even the categories, Kim. Even the categories that that society will put us in, we try to stay in them, or just consider ourselves that's our identity, when it's not necessarily our identity. It's the box, or because society does say that basically they say that her the trauma was so bad in her brain that she would never have any real quality of life. And I just that's a lie. And it just takes a lot of maneuvering and a lot of, you know, just vetting people that are around her and that are walking with her in this journey. But she's an adult. And even though she's always my baby, she's still an adult and she deserves to have that quality of life, whatever we have to do to supplement. And that's another thing with systems. And what I've seen with my daughter is that the system wanted to just define her as getting a check or being in the corner or going and playing every day. And that's not realistic for a young Black woman to do and to thrive in this society. So in doing so, I had to think outside the boxes and really see what I could do to help her, champion her, not baby her, but champion her to be so that she can be acclimated in her community and that her community loves her and learns her. So that's been the challenge, the struggle, and the greatest accomplishment at the same
You're
time.
raising a daughter with special needs. You are discovering about yourself that there's more for her. There's more for you. I imagine those two things are kind of running parallel to each other. You're coming out of the work environment that I imagine has been pretty stable and secure for you for a number of years to decide to go back to school and discover what's possible for you. And I mean, what a mindset. That's what I mean.
Out of water. Just a fish out of water.
But it's been so interesting because let's talk about the next steps. You may feel like you're a fish out of water, but everything that you've accomplished during your time at Chat State has been anything but. It sounds like you have been exactly in the pond that you were always meant to be in. So Liz and Zinnia both, and you pick how you want to talk about this, but let's talk about some of the accomplishments that you've had over the last 2 years at Chat State. And then I want to, and within that, tell us a little bit about where you're headed. Tell us a little bit about what your degree is going to be and what you want to do with that. But tell us about, this pond that you've been in that has obviously been transformational for you, but was catalyzed by the realization that you wanted something for your daughter as well. And, her success runs parallel to your success. I just love that combination of ideas. So talk a little bit about the awards that you've gotten. We mentioned that a little bit in the introduction, but tell us more about the Dream Scholar and the SOAR and what those programs are, and then also the Student Government Association. So you guys talk a little bit about that for us.
Okay. First, let's start off with I started and people were asking me to join organizations, and my first, because psychology is my heart and that is where my love is. My first was I was offered a presidential role in the psychology club, and that was my first leadership role. It was amazing to learn and to make the mistakes and to get up and start over and to cultivate events and to have conversations with students and to really find out about students. That was my first thing. All the while, I am, of course, still taking my classes, finding out that I had a learning disability, which I am ADHD, but also maintaining a 4.0 GPA. Then social justice came. The social justice club came, and that was Dr. Liz and Dr. Bill Taylor. We were always having these discussions about the systems and what we've seen and how we can make it better. And so then it was like, do you want to be president of social justice? Okay. And so we would just do our events that way. And after that, I was asked about the Student Government Association, which is in a very vulnerable state right now because this is our second semester back on campus. So we really needed to breathe life back into a very important organization on campus. And so that was challenging in the fall. And we did what we could just to make sure that the students knew what it was and that they had skin in the game on Chattanooga State's campus. And so we did that, but all while at the same time, I was being nominated by Liz for the SOAR Award, and another administrator nominated me for the SOAR Awards. I just did it. I didn't think, because of my past, I didn't think that, that would even, it would even go anywhere. So I won the first stage here at Chat State. which was just administrators and faculty. And so then they said, hey, you got to go and you have to, you're going to have to compete for the Southeast region. I was like, okay, that'll be it. And so I was on a Zoom with people I didn't know, and I competed for the Southeast region, and then I won that. And so I am the student of the year for the Southeast region. Now in March, I go and I compete with Southwest and Middle Tennessee for student of the year for Tennessee, which does come with a very nice scholarship. Then they said, hey, won't you apply for ATD Dream Scholar? Okay, so I did it and didn't think anything was going to happen. And then over the Christmas holiday, Dr. Ashford, our president, called me and she said, hey, you got it. And I'm like, ATD, that's a national recognition. It's only 8 scholars in the nation that get to do it. It is a very great opportunity because you get to work with coaches. You get to learn how to tell your story. Mm-hmm. You get to influence 300 community colleges that come to this conference, which is next week. You get to influence and talk about your experience as a student. You get to tell what you think from a student's perspective community colleges should do. And that is next week for the remainder of the week. But all the time, still getting this 4.0, still on the dean's list, still doing everything at the campus, being very, very active.
I love it. And what's interesting to me, so Dr. Ashford is also a CWLI member, and Liz, of course, is a CWLI member, and Zinnia, you are one of our newer members as well. And so point being, we're building this community, and it's always refreshing to me to walk into any room. I was speaking at a place last week, and I asked the room to raise their hand. It was a room of probably, I don't know, maybe just under 100 women or so, maybe around between somewhere 50 to 100 women. And, probably a third of the room raised their hand as either being current or former CWLI leaders. And what that tells me is we have this sort of invisible network of people out there who really do have this idea and this foundation around supporting each other, and that's what we're really supposed to be about. And so, you reference Liz a lot. Liz, you've really obviously been a huge sponsor in her journey. And I just want to know, what is it that you saw? Because I know, Zinnia, I love, hearing your story. I want to hear Liz talk about why she loves you so much and hear you talk about, what prompted you to do that? Because it takes your time to nominate somebody for these things. It's, it is an act of sacrifice to do that and to make sure that you see another person to success, right? And I think that that's an important narrative here too. So talk about that a little bit, Liz. Is that something you do every year? Is this something that's new to you that you want to continue? And we'll tie it in here again in just a minute, but talk a little bit about Zinnia and how you decided to do that.
Let me just first say that my entry point to CWLI was from Dr. Rebecca Ashford. Wow. So she buys a table at the annual Impact Dinner and offers those seats to often fairly junior people at the college to go. And I got invited to go the year KDK was the speaker. And so I was at a table with people that I kind of knew at Chat State and saw what CWLI was doing and said, I want to be a part of this. So I joined, but I didn't really do anything with CWLI until the summer of 2020, in the wake of the George Floyd murder and, all of the things that were happening that summer. And, I saw one of the CWLI newsletters and said, I think I have a responsibility to get more engaged here. And, I think for me, when I was in high school, I had an English teacher who wrote a letter of recommendation for me when I was applying for college. And in that letter, she gave me a copy of it, which is not normal practice. And it remains today, some 20 years later, one of my prized possessions because she She articulated things about me that I had never realized about myself. And I have carried that lesson with me in everything that I've done. So I really see an instrumental part of my work as an educator to help the students who come into my rooms see things in themselves that they may not be able to see, but that I can see so clearly, and tell them, because that alone can be hugely transformative in the path that you take in life. Just knowing that someone thought highly enough of you to pull you aside and say, you know, Xenia, you have a gift. You have a gift for creating places where people of all backgrounds can share their genuine selves in a way that they know you're not going to judge them. And we need more of that in this world. Or you have a passion for changing systems. And that's what we need right now. So, you know, I think, you know, that's kind of what I try to do. And this is like core to who I am. It's core to my ethos as an educator, and frankly, just as a human, is to try to find those places where I can help people realize a little more about where their strengths are.
And I really just want to say that, like Liz and I, our relationship is a pay it forward relationship. Because she did the same with me in a nomination letter, and she gave me a copy of it. And it was just last year, like maybe I want to say November of last year. I have pulled that letter out about 10 times to read it on bad days, just because I need a reminder of why I am doing this and what someone else sees in me, because it sometimes it just doesn't see like, it doesn't look like I'm making any leeway with anything. So the one thing, because I do say that, like, Liz is a mentor of mine. She's one of my most influential mentors in my life. And what I try to do is I want to do what she did for me, for others. That's it.
So that leads us into our next question. Tell us a little bit about Empowered Connections. You're paying it forward in that space.
Yes. Empowered Connections was actually the reason I came to school. It's because Empowered Connections is an advocacy firm that we just help caregivers and individuals with disabilities to get resources and to get help, advocate, to do events, to educate. And now I'm starting to sit in with IEPs to just help like younger students get the services that they need. It started with my daughter. I just wanted to, because they told me that China would have a next step. And so when she graduated, there was no next step. So it was nothing I could do. Okay, I got to create the next step. So I started taking some classes from a firm in Chicago that were teaching customized employment, which is finding your own personal genius. And with the disability community that may not have all of the skills society needs, we really have to tap in and see what exactly they do naturally. Everybody has a gift. And so it was all about doing that. Well, when I first started and I was advocating for families, it was okay, but I also realized I didn't know enough about the brain. I didn't know enough about different diagnoses. So I came back to school to figure that out. Well, in coming back, it just got bigger. And so now is more so because even with disabilities, you have caregivers that are going through serious trauma, just dealing with systems or just dealing with agencies or just dealing with their loved ones. So it started to become more of a person-centered, like whatever you need. If it's trauma, then okay, let's get you referred to someone that you can sit down to. If it's resources that you need because you need a break, let's find those resources. If you are scared in an IEP and you just want somebody to come in with you and just sit on the table, on the other side of the table with you as a parent, then I have been trained by the VAP program, the Vanderbilt Program for Advocacy. And so it just started to, Empowered Connections started to, I just don't want anybody to be in the shoes that I was in, unknowing and not having the support that they need. We have a lot of great organizations around Chattanooga, and what Empowered Connections does is just bridge a link, like tell you which ones you can go to help. It's not a different or trying to take over anything. It's just trying to just build a bridge so that we all can get these services as well.
And so for our viewers that don't know what an IEP is, it's an individualized education plan. And I say in my past life, I was a part of a lot of IEPs. My daughter is also special needs. She only has the 504 at this point in time, which is, a little bit more localized version of an IEP. But it's basically, making sure that children get to be full participants in their own education, right? Which has parallels with what we are trying to do as women, to resource women to get to be full participants in their own life. There are so many decisions that get made on our behalf, right? Or so by systems. We talk about that a lot. And this is kind of this invisible dynamic that happens. And, having been a part of those IEP sessions in the past, I will say that was one of the most important experiences of my life, to now be able to advocate on behalf of my daughter. We just had her 504 meeting on Friday. And, had I not known what to do, it's a very intimidating environment that also takes up a whole lot of your time and is an extra burden that typically falls on women as caregivers. And so a lot of people don't understand that. You get a lot of legal components to that. Often at those IEP meetings, you will have an advocate, you'll have an attorney, you'll have, depending on the situation that you're dealing with, and how cooperative the school is that you're dealing with on the other side of the table. It is a negotiation about how to make sure that child gets to be a full participant in his or her educational success. And so it takes a lot of time and energy to make sure. And it sounds like you've done that for your daughter, and that she is really thriving and doing well. And y'all have a beautiful relationship. And so tell me a little bit about what you want for her. You're resourcing yourself. This is something that you will have with you forever. We never stop being moms. And so what do you want for her? What do you see for her? And how does that jive with your own success going forward?
Well, I just want the least dependency as possible for her, but keeping her safe as well. Because my daughter is an amazing young lady, and she's really different from me. She's very social. She's very outgoing. She's very, she loves people. And I am not that. I can do that in the events and everything that I have to do, but I'm not one that wants to stay out and, unless I'm connecting with women, or if it's a mission that we're making, sometimes I like to just be home and just recharge. My daughter is not. So we had to figure out, because she couldn't be like me. And sometimes as parents, that's what we model for our children is I want her to do this like me. I want her to do this like me. And with China, it's totally different, because she wants to be out there. She loves volunteering. She loves doing all the activities out and interacting with people. So I really had to think outside of the box with her. And so what I had to do is we had to establish safe people that could go out with her in the community and allow her to be as independent as possible, but also keeping her safe. So I have hired about 8 people that in different aspects work with her in the community. So she's doing things in the community when she's volunteering at the zoo, when she's at McDonald House, she's doing these things, and they are beside her, partnering with her, but also giving her that feel and the support to be just an adult and not Zinnia's daughter. Because if Zinnia shows up, then mommy's going to do it, or mommy can do it, or she's not feeling her independent self. I want her to be just like us. I want her to be independent, and like we have been teaching China to advocate for herself, even with what she wants to eat. teaching her how to, if it's something that I say that we're going to do, like we used to have these girlfriend days that we would get up at like 3 o'clock in the morning and pop popcorn and just watch Netflix. Okay. She doesn't want to do that anymore. And I love that because she is advocating for herself. So my vision for her is for a young lady that is completely on her own, but understands the world around her and understands how to keep herself safe. And those are some of the goals that we're working towards now, is getting her there.
Mm-hmm. And it depends on a village. It depends on a whole support network, right?
And I tell you, Kim, not to cut you off, but I tell you, there are people that do not know me and will be in Walmart and will speak to China and will look at me like I'm a stranger, because her community, she knows her community and her community knows her. You cannot take her anywhere to Starbucks and somebody not, hey, China, because she knows her community, and I'm not always with her. Mm-hmm. And I love that. I love that.
So, we talk about women who influence us, and it's funny you say that. My mother was always just sort of this little ball of chaos, like constant. She just, in fact, we affectionately referred to her as Hurricane Susan. Love my mother dearly, but that was her nickname. And so we, over time, we just got into this expectation that it was kind of like that scripture in the Bible that talks about the sparrows of the field. Does God not, if he takes care of the sparrows of the field, does he not much more love you and take care of you? And so that comes back to me. A friend, one of our board members, gave me a little sparrow at one point early on in my journey with CWLI. And so there is this thread of womanhood, right? That there are so many different types of women, so many different types of female leaders, right? From our mothers to our sisters to our daughters who are leading us and teaching us, to our, what we call our personal board of directors, right? So Liz is part of you are part of each other's personal board of directors, right? Who are just sort of ride or die for each other. And I think that we can get, especially right now in the pandemic, it is really, really hard for us to have extra bandwidth to take care of our village, to really step in and say, how are you doing? And I mean it. How are you doing? And what can I take from you? Because I have some extra this week to give. And because we're dealing with so many micro griefs along the way, right? Griefs of how our children haven't had the types of childhood that we've had, for example. And so, there's just so much along the way, or even just having our daily schedule kind of sabotage from us. That can bring you to tears sometimes. Whereas it wouldn't have used to have, maybe. So I think we've got to be really cognizant of that. But, what I really hear, and I want to put a fine point on, is that both of your stories are dependent on strong women who are either your contemporaries or came before you, who said, it is my job, it is my duty, it is my desire to enrich the life of another woman. That is a very intentional step. Right. And so I want to ask, we've got this little project that we're starting, the three of us at Chattanooga State, and we are going to successfully plant a chapter of CWLI on Chattanooga State's campus. This is an idea that we've had for a very long time, but I don't think that we've had, we didn't have, some of our programming to the place where it needed to be. Then the pandemic hit, and then, the leadership that we needed to really achieve liftoff with this. So I am beyond excited about it. Liz, you already host one of our affinity groups. We mentioned that earlier. So you've kind of got a framework for how we can get this up and running. And then Zinnia, you've got the passion to pull in all kinds of other women. This is another way that you both want to pay it forward. Right. And so I just want to ask you, what do you want for women? What is your biggest desire for women right now?
You want to go first?
Let me just say that, especially in the last 2 years, but for most of my life, I have been very aware that I have had a pretty easy life. I grew up thinking that we were poor only after I graduated college to see my parents buy like a very small condo in Hawaii. And I was like, wait, what? How did that happen? I rushed to get through college quickly because I felt guilty for spending their money, right? And then I was like, so I but I've had an easy life, right? Like things have fallen into place for me fairly easily. And I recognize every single day that I do my work that I am a very lucky person, and I do not take that for granted. And so what I want for women is for everyone to have the clearest and easiest path forward, no matter what they've experienced in the past. And I want to be that person with like the machete knocking things out of their way so that they can just do what they were born to do.
Yeah.
And that means that I find myself using my voice a lot for the absolutely incredible students that we have at Chat State. And I'm not sure that this community in Chattanooga realizes how profoundly amazing the students at our college are. You know, you think community college and you think, well, I guess you couldn't get into a real school. That's not it, right? Our students have more grit and tenacity and determination and motivation than any students I've ever worked with. So I want to take those people who have had a challenging path to here, be that our students, be that our frontline staff who are often making well below even a living wage, to say nothing of a thriving wage. I want to do whatever I can to make their path easier. And I see this Chattanooga State campus chapter as a way to bring some of the really powerful tools of CWLI to those people, to the people who may not have a clear mentor or a clear path forward, to do the work to figure out who can I go to and what can I learn so that I can be even more than I ever imagined possible.
Zinnia, how about you?
Well, I tell you what I really want to do. I want to debunk the lie that when I first, because I came in contact with Chattanooga Women's Leadership Institute from a friend sending me the link. And that was maybe a year ago or so. And when I got the link, I was like, oh, they don't want me because I don't meet the criteria of that I thought of a women in leadership in Chattanooga. I thought you had to be established. And even in some of these areas that like spotlighting me as a member, it was pretty vulnerable and eerie that, and I would have to unlearn the stinking thinking in my head that they don't want you. It's just, they're just doing this because they feel sorry for you. I want to debunk that lie. And I want to debunk that lie here at Chattanooga State with students, because as Liz said, top talent is over here. And it's not just me. And so I have been put in great opportunities, but what I am looking at is how do we get all of them these opportunities and to empower students to have their voice and to know that they have a voice on this campus, on the campus that they're going to, and to not stop. I want to start conversations. Kim, I've told you this. I want to start conversations with women, young, old, Black, white, whatever. I want to start those conversations so we can destroy biases that live just because we're silent. And I think those conversations start at Chattanooga Women's Leadership Institute at the campus chapter of Chat State, with young women, old women, because we have everything over here from 8 to 80. So every one of those people can really be a part of Chattanooga Women's Leadership Institute. And this is something, I'm gonna stop. But this is something that I did not know. I was looking for something like this. And I wanted something like this. And I did not know that Chattanooga Women's Leadership Institute had such an amazing library of mentorship opportunities, events that they've had, teachings and stuff. And they're right at your fingertip. I didn't even know that existed. And so I want to make sure that every person over here knows that exists, and this is the place to go and get it.
Well, thank you. I wasn't fishing for an advertisement for
I know.
Sometimes you get one, Kim.
But I think that's it. The three of us really have connected so quickly because we share that it factor around what we want to see happen for women. Right? We want women to be transformed. We want them transformed out of the myths about what they have been told leadership should and should not look like, what womanhood should and should not look like. And so the only way to do that is to dig in and build a platform from which to pull that out, right? To where that can really emerge. And so I'm really excited about that. I couldn't have said it better than the way that you've both said, this opportunity that we have. And that's really why I wanted to talk to both of you, because you are so opportunity driven and you're so how do we get to yes driven. And it's been very easy to really see a path forward for how we can really accelerate the work that activates female talent and leadership in this community. So that is why I wanted to talk to both of you today, because you are such an embodiment of female leadership activated. And we don't often celebrate and reward and support that like we should. Sometimes, the accolades that we hand out are not always in this space, in this really get down and work and grit things out kind of space. And so anytime that we can use this platform to do that, I want to do that. And so I'm just so proud of you, Zinnia, so proud of all of the honors that you've gotten this year and will continue to get. I have no doubt that this is just the beginning of an amazing chapter for you. And Liz, the same for you. I mean, you have just proven, and you are the embodiment of a lifelong learner. And thank you for that, because truly you cut the work out for a lot of busy women. You say, hey, you should read this book. Hey, have you thought about this question? And you can really cut through a lot of stuff that makes it very efficient for us and very it makes us get to be a little bit less vulnerable because of who you are. To say, I can sit here and say, sometimes people may look at me and think I'm supposed to have all the answers. And with you, I can say, I don't. You're a great resource. Do you have a resource that I can use? And so I think that, that's really, Zinnia is demonstrative of how you lean into people and really cultivate and bring the best out of them. So thank you for that. We will end on this one easy question. What's your word for 2022?
Easy? Easy question?
Maybe I lied.
Change.
I love it.
I think for me, it's curiosity.
I love it. Those are great words. I love it. Any final words, ladies?
I love the African proverb that says, when sleeping women wake, they can move mountains. I'm paraphrasing. But that is how I feel that Liz has done for me. She woke me up.
I love it.
And so now we're pushing these mountains.
I love it. And it's a lot easier when we do it together, right?
Yes, it is.
And I see so many, especially younger women, who come into my classroom or who I work with, who I feel like kind of get overwhelmed by how much needs to change. And that can become very paralyzing. And we all deal with perfectionism and imposter syndrome and all of that. And so I say over and over to myself multiple times a day, like 5 times already today, the Arthur Ashe quote that is, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. That's my guiding principle in everything I do. It's just, where am I? What do I have? What can I do? And every day, if I've made the world even like 1% better for one person, then that was a good day. And I just do what I can and let the chips fall where they may.
Well, ladies, you are 2 of the architects for what we are going to rebuild moving forward. And I love it. And I just really appreciate both of you. You're amazing women. I'm blessed to get to know you. And I hope that you both have a great afternoon. And thank you for spending some time with us today.
Thank you.
The women you see here have been an integral part of shaping a new vision for CWLI. They've invested numerous hours of uncompensated time to ensure that we have a solid foundation from which to grow moving forward together. Each of their stories combine to form a beautiful mosaic of women supporting women. The legacy they leave will benefit women for years to come. This is, of course, not an exhaustive list of the many women whose talents contribute to our mission in a given year. We cannot thank them enough for their contribution to what comes next for CWLI leaders. Thank you for spending time with us today to learn more about how we will rebuild and elevate female leadership in our region. We hope you will make plans to join us to continue the conversation on March 24th with a dynamic lineup of speakers to discuss social, economic, and policy issues related to activating diverse talent. We are honored to host our keynote speaker, Jennifer Stanley of McKinsey & Company, as well as Joan Cronin, the Women's Athletic Director Emeritus for UTK, along with local leaders offering varying perspectives on what it will take to regain the losses women have faced throughout the pandemic and make our community the best place for women to work moving forward. Learn more at cwli.org.